Hello there, I'm Smokin Joe Frazier. You watching boxing during your dinner.
Welcome to Boxing During Dinner, episode 30. We start with a somber note. Our intro there, courtesy of Smokin Joe Frazier, when you interviewed him a couple of months back.
In July, yep. Yeah.
You know, the liver process is so many things. It's like the most difficult cancer to have. When I was like 18, 19 years old, that I had a little job while I was in college, and it was at a clinic for liver disease patients, you know, with cancer and transplants and stuff, man, and it wasn't pretty. So I've seen firsthand what people like Joe have gone through, and it's really sad. And a guy that a few months ago seemingly looked healthy, and it's just sad.
It's one of those things. It's part of life, and no one wants to see anybody go through it, especially in such a highly visible person, a highly likable person, in such a public way.
And I grew up watching, not watching Joe Frazier fights live because I wasn't born yet. I was born, in '80. I think he had one more fight after 1980. But my father was a big Joe Frazier fan, and he hated Muhammad Ali. My dad despised Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
So Joe Frazier was his hero for knocking Ali's ass on the ground and beating him in their first fight.
First one ever.
And really quick, we're eating Subway since this is Boxing During Dinner, and we are eating dinner. I got a ham and turkey sub, some Lay's potato chips, some Coke. I don't think Coke is sponsoring us, so
no.
we'd have a lot more money.
Let's see, next week is my last salad, and then I'll be back to my normal diet. I got my Knicks mug. I'm still hopeful that the lockout ends, but I'm eating salad again next Monday, and then I'm back to what I want to eat.
I think David's secretly training for a fight. You're not fighting Canelo, right?
I could get down to 154 right now. I'm getting there.
So, really quick, you were at a fight on Saturday. I was at a wedding, so I didn't see those fights.
He didn't get remarried. Don't worry.
I didn't get remarried, not yet at least.
Yeah.
But Joey Hernandez, who we've had on the show a couple of times, he fought Elko Garcia, and it was a highly controversial fight. Talk a little more about it.
Yeah, it was, and you'll see in just a minute our post-fight interview with Joey, but all three judges had the score 114-112 for Joey, but he was resoundingly booed by his hometown crowd. I personally, as I turned in my unofficial card, had Joey losing by 3 rounds. Do I see how in front of a hometown crowd Joey could have won the fight? Yes. He landed some of the cleaner shots. Joey's always been a flashier fighter. Elko Garcia, though, however, proved extremely difficult as a guy who's about 6'1", kept him at the end of a long, stiff jab. Joey always fights shorter than he actually is, and he's not big to begin with for 154. There's some room for growth for him. It was a tough fight, but you got to give him, all the credit for his first time going 12 rounds. Regardless of what the crowd says, Joey won that fight according to the 3 judges, and he moves on to 20-1.
And before we throw to your post-fight interview, do you think watching Joey Hernandez in person, seeing him fight Elko Garcia, who's a tall fighter? I mean, he's 40 years old, but he is a tall, difficult fighter at 154. Do you think Joey's better suited to fight at 140, maybe 147 if he can make 140?
Yeah, I do. Joey had also spoken in the past about his difficulty making weight, and I think a lot of it had to do with discipline. Now Joey seems to have the discipline that it takes to be the fighter that he wants to be, and at this point I think his frame, because of the fact that he's about 5'7", 5'8", and he fights in a style that puts him maybe at about 5'6", 5'5", he is better suited for the lower weight classes if he continues to discipline himself. Get back to 147 and then see how your body handles it, and maybe get down to 140. I think is a little bit too much, but I think he's better suited for lower divisions, and we'll see what he does.
Well, here's your post-fight interview with Joey Twinkle Fingers Hernandez.
All right, everybody, I'm David Berry from Boxing During Dinner. I'm here with Joey Hernandez, who claimed another championship tonight in the junior middleweight division, but not without a little bit of controversy. The crowd had you, maybe not as a winner with the reaction, but the judges had you 114-112 on all 3 cards. So I guess it doesn't matter what the crowd thinks, but what do you think, and how about your performance tonight?
Nah, I thought I boxed him, man. He was hitting me with a bullshit jab. Once in a while, I give him a really good right hand. He was a big motherfucker. He caught me in the first round with a fucking punch that I didn't see. And to be honest with you, I didn't think the guy can hit. The whole King Productions told me that the guy was just, a complete, just two left-footed guy that came forward and could hit. And I underestimated his power to hit him in the first round. And to recover with a punch like that is, it's determination, balls, and will. I got up and I came back in the second round and dropped him. It was a good fight. I felt I outboxed him. I'm not a dumb guy. I'm not going to end up slurring my words when my career is done. And I went to what I do best, boxing. I don't care what the crowd does. I got another W. And you're going to see Joey in the ring unless it's for money. I'm tired of all these bullshit fights. I'm 20-1. I want to see money. I feel like I got what it takes to make money and stuff like that. And that's what I'm in it for. The guy was a 6'1" fucking big old guy, and I'm not going to stay there and fight with the guy. I did what I had to do best. I boxed him. I made him miss. I clowned him. And he hit me with a pity pat jab and a right hand here and there. I felt I was controlling the action, and all three judges can't have the same scorecard. It was a close fight, but I prevailed, and I showed people that I have what it takes to go 12 rounds. I got hurt at the 9th round, and I came back. My legs were out under me, but I was conscious the whole time, and I recovered and came back, and I started doing what I do.
Now tell us about that, because one of the things that some people have seen here after the fight is that you limped out a little bit. There was a foot injury in the 4th round. Tell us about that.
In the 4th round, I don't know what it is. Right here, I have I'm gonna go get it checked. I guess a quick reaction, go back, and I felt it. It felt like something pulled. Of course, the adrenaline. I felt the pain, but in my head, I had a monster in front of me. I had to keep moving. So I did what I did, and I feel I showed I answered a lot of questions today. And like I said, I want big fights.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joey Hernandez, a big friend of Boxing During Dinner, a close but controversial win tonight, and on to 20-1 and bigger and better things. Thanks very much, Joey.
Thank you.
Speaking of it was a big fight weekend. I mean, Glenn Johnson fought. Unfortunately, he lost. We say unfortunately because he's a friend of ours. Yep. But he lost to Lucien Butte up there in Canada. But the fight that everybody's talking about is Alfredo Angulo and James Kirkland, and we said here it was going to be a great fight. I think everybody expected a great fight, and our guest tonight expected a great fight. He actually picked a winner. And that's Gabriel Montoya from Max Boxing and Leaving in the Ring. Gabriel, welcome to Boxing During Dinner.
Woohoo! All right.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
That Angulo-Kirkland fight, Gabriel, and I don't know how long you've been watching boxing. I don't know if you've been watching since you were born, but where does that rank among the top rounds in all of boxing? Because I've been watching tapes of old fights. I've been watching fights since I was a little kid, and that was definitely top 10.
Yeah, to me it is. I mean, I've been watching since I was 5, something like that, as long as I can remember. I'm Mexican, so to come out, like, hurry up, there's a fight on.
That's a requirement, a rite of passage.
So, it's actually my mom was the big boxing fan, and watched it too. He watched all sports, but it was my mother that was really into it. And my brother Tom, who really brought me back to the sport, probably in 1990, somewhere around there, 89, around when Tito started to get big. And that was my guy. As soon as I saw him, I was it. I was in. And it's when I first saw James Kirkland in 2006, my very first fight in Vegas, literally my first fight, because it was the first fight on the undercard. And feeling like seeing him then when I saw Trinidad for the first time against Orlando Campos. Just, who is this guy? I'm going to follow him. And I would say, I don't really do lists, but I would think that first round is right up. It's got to be top 10, top 20. Just in terms of, you look at the rounds of the year, Concepcion Marquez 1 comes to mind.
Yeah.
Similar first round, both guys get knocked down. But I think in terms of and knowing that James has been stopped in the first round, and here he is in his next big fight on HBO, and boom, he's down 30 seconds in, and no one gave him a chance to win the fight, much less get up and do what he did. And for me, I was watching that and the Japanese fight, whose names I would butcher if I tried to say them. Their round was tremendous. Yagashi, I think, is one of the guys, and to me, this is round of the year. I mean, it just comes on the line for the way we all felt about the fight, for the way everybody picked against James. There's some writers now kind of acting like they knew all along he'd win, and that's just not true. I would say that this is just right up. It reminds me of the 10th round of Castillo Corrales. particularly of the first round of Hagler-Hearns, and then the way that it made the rest of the fight, which was kind of a one-sided fight in a lot of ways. You know, maybe after the second round, it was pretty much done. But we because of that first round, even I, in my article, wrote it was a classic. And then when I watched it again, I said, you know what? This was actually not that even of a fight. And after Kirkland dropped him in the second round, the fight was over. And we always think of Hagler-Hearns as this classic fight, and it is. But watch it again. You watch that first round. Everything else after that is kind of mop-up duty for Hagler.
Right.
You know, once her hand was broken, and it was over.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just tremendous performance, man. I'm still in awe that I've watched it a million times. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said that in hindsight, a lot of boxing writers are saying, "Oh yeah, I knew Kirkland would win." Look, once Angulo knocked him down, I said, "You know what? I was right. Yeah. Kirkland's done." And I got kind of, for a second there, Gabriel, I got kind of sad. Because, like you, I watched Kirkland when he first started. Then he kind of disappeared off the map, you know, found out he had gone to jail. When he came back, he was great once again. And I'm like, man, this kid with so much promise, so much punching power, and that's it. His career is done. And all of a sudden, he mounts this comeback. And like you said, David and I were talking about this before the show, that a lot of people are calling it a fight of the year, and it's really not, because like you said, it was a dominant performance by Kirkland thereafter. Do you think Angulo could have done anything different? Because it seemed he followed that game plan that, like you said, I'm not going to butcher the Japanese guy's name, that beat
Ishida. That's his last name.
Ishida. He followed Ishida's game plan, which was, you know, he saw him knock him out in the first round. He wanted to do the same, but I think at the end it backfired on Angulo.
If you look at all the knockdowns of Kirkland's career, particularly not really so much the knockdowns against Ishida, but the first knockdown and the Alan Conyers knockdown,
right,
they're all the same punch. And the Angulo punch, it's a right hand as the guy's backing into a corner and James is just going off. And boom, counter right hand, and back you go. But he's kind of like that in that sense, and I think that's why I like him, is that vulnerability mixed with destruction. You know, if you can get to that chin, you can drop him early, but you got to keep him down. And he always kind of gets up. Ishida, he was getting up after that third knockdown. His eyes were still clear. He just needs a wake-up call, and then it's time to rock. And, you know, I think, to answer your question, I think there was a few things that Angulo could have done differently. I initially thought that Nacho was a good idea. Now I'm not so sure, although, you know, one camp it usually takes 3 camps for a fighter and a trainer to gel. You got to be in the corner in a few situations, instructions, learn how to communicate, but also learn how to get his body down and weight. You can't just, you know, go for it and say, we're going to go to 154 and that's it. And I knew that he had a little bit of trouble making weight to Cali for his comeback fight. And the difference between that camp and this camp was that he didn't have Daryl Hudson for this camp, who was his strength and conditioning coach for the last, I think, 3 or 4 fights. And Daryl and I talked, and kind of agreed that his body didn't look the same. And he looked a little listless. He didn't look as strong. He didn't look confident to me. And I don't want to take anything away from what James did, because, you know, Angulo had a good camp from all accounts. He just had a different camp. And when you go in, when I heard Daryl was in his camp, that's what sealed the deal for me. And I went to Kirkland. I know Kirkland's having a hell of a camp. He wasn't even doing an interview with me, which he always does an interview with me. And that media blackout told me they're preparing for war. And I don't think Angulo, I always picked James to beat him, but I think it would have lasted maybe 8 rounds, 9 rounds, and been more competitive. And maybe he fit early on. But again, you know, this is the thing that really bothers me about this fight. Everybody's saying, well, if Angulo had not punched himself out, James would lose. That's not giving him any. In order to punch yourself out, what tires you out more? Landing punches or missing punches? It's missing punches. And James made him miss all night. From the first time he got hit, he took one more right hand, took a few body shots, a couple shots here and there. For every punch landed, there was 5 or 6 that missed. And that's got to be a credit to James' underrated defense.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I was gonna say I agree with that 100%. Because yeah, that's one of the things that's lost. People think, you know, what you mentioned round 8 or 9. I believe that would have been the same result just a few rounds later had he not punched himself out. But moving on to something else, I know a lot of people have talked a lot already about the Angulo Kirkland fight, but coming up this weekend, maybe the first or second most anticipated pay-per-view event of the year, depending on who you want to ask, is Manny Pacquiao and the Trilogy event against Juan Manuel Marquez. You're going to be in Vegas for this fight. A lot of people have Pacquiao favored heavily. What are your thoughts going into this weekend?
I think it's at this weight, it's a mismatch, you know, and at this age, I think Bob Arum and Top Rank are brilliant at getting people at the right time, and now weight, it's something they've kind of added to their bag of tricks, although they've done it before with Sugar Ray Leonard, Johnny Lalonde, to name one example. I just think, you know, they're selling it on name. It was the last fight that they could sell. You know, the stinky ones in between, the Claudia, Margarito was, you know, a fun fight, but it was one-sided. And Shane Mosley, which was, I just had a feeling it was going to not be that great. But so they had this card that they could play with Marquez. And now they're playing it, and everybody's going to buy it, and everybody's going to be there. I'm going to be there. But I'm telling you, you know, it's not 9-1 for nothing. And I think Marquez gets knocked out in the 8th round. And the strength and conditioning coach, he can do whatever he wants. The legs are gone. You know, that showed at lightweight. His legs are absolutely gone.
Yeah, I expect a similar type of fight, Gabriel. And obviously after this fight, people are going to once again start asking for Mayweather-Pacquiao. And if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I used to swear to people, hey, you know what, the fight's going to happen. Don't worry about it. It'll happen in a few months. But I've become a cynic. I mean, after this fight, I'm expecting Mayweather to fight Amir Khan. And I expect Tim Bradley to fight Pacquiao. And not Pacquiao-Mayweather. Do you expect the same thing?
They've made us into cynics, haven't they? You know,
it's so freaking depressing.
They've killed our hope.
We've really hoped. They've killed our hope. You know, and that's what I've been so high on this Kirkland-Angulo fight before it and since it. That's what boxing needed, you know.
Exactly.
And I just think these are two very selfish people, both the promoters and the fighters. You know, it's all, and screw the fans. We're not going to give them what they wanted. Nobody wanted Ortiz versus Mayweather. We accepted it because it was a young guy, but he was a 7-1 dog. He should have been more. And I mean, there was no reason to make that fight. I mean, Golden Boy once again screwed up with Victor Ortiz and defended him at my dime when he was too young. And
they're trying to kill that kid.
You know, and no, it doesn't happen. I really don't. And honestly, and I've said this publicly many times, I can't wait for both of them to retire. I'm sick of them. You know, give me, you know, get Animal and go get some stem cells of James, 10 of them, and let Ann train those guys.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's get some real fight.
I think they should fire all the trainers, let Ann Wolf train everybody, and make the matches
Let's make boxing fun again. But Gabriel, before we let you go, I want to ask you 2 yes or no questions, and then one that we could elaborate a little bit on. The first one, now that Angulo got iced by James Kirkland, do you think Canelo finally wants to fight him now?
Yeah, I do. Let's make the fight.
the second one, and I'll tell you off the bat, I actually did think this. If that Kirkland Angulo fight would have lasted 30 seconds to a minute longer, did you think Angulo could possibly die in the ring? Because for a second I said, if this guy does not stop the fight, this guy's gonna die, because he's a tough guy and he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I do actually. It's strange that you mentioned the ref that was involved in that fight was involved in a ring death. He let a fight go too long. The guy died the next day. And it was scary because Angulo knew it. And he knew that Nacho probably wouldn't stop the fight, you know. And he would. So yeah, there was a recipe for disaster there. It was a good stoppage.
And
I think he should have stopped for 2 rounds sooner.
And the last question, with Angulo and Kirkland, this fight that just happened, and then we have Canelo, whether you think he's great or not, or even good. You got Erislandy Lara, Carlos Molina. The 154 division may be the most exciting in boxing right now.
It's arguably the most exciting, and particularly, maybe move up, but even just alone, I think with the addition of Kirkland, now everybody has a guy to look at as a potential danger. So when you look at 154, there's not really anybody exciting there. Canelo, incredibly boring. I'm just not buying what they're selling with him. I was initially.
Me neither.
But the more they feed him white guys from Europe, the more I just go, nah, he's not the one.
Gabriel, thanks a lot for joining Boxing During Dinner. It was fun, and I'll be in Vegas, so I'll see you at the fights this week.
And I'll watch you guys on pay-per-view.
Cool, man. Thank you guys for having me. I'll see you there.
All right, Gabriel. Take
All
care.
right, take care. That wraps up episode 30 of Boxing During Dinner. That was Gabriel Montoya from Max Boxing and Leave It in the Ring. And,
Alex, have a lot of fun editing this one. I know we went way over tonight. We're at about, what, 25, 30 minutes of content?
Probably. But
Yeah,
you know what?
sorry
Just write us on Facebook and at Box During Dinner on Twitter. Send us your opinions on this week's fights.
Just talk to us. We love you.